The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
Especially since it's in... There's the... Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another comically long review. Okay, this time I am going to apologize for some schedule delays. April was a really rough month for me. My regular job, photography team lead at a local theme park, for those of you who aren't aware of that, has really shifted into high gear. Shift into turbo! And in a very strange rarity for me, I got sick twice in a row. I got a head cold at the start of the month, and just as I was about to recover from that, I got a sinus infection. But if you know me, you know that I really don't like the channel falling all that far behind. So the fact that the first proper review of Dragon Knight came out a week late, and I have a list of a good 10 to 12 videos that I would like to get done before the end of the month, means that I'm going just a little bit insane over here. Or rather, just a little bit more insane.
I'm not crazy, I'm just a little unwell. I know, right now you can't tell.
As one more quick reminder, although I think I mentioned this in the Radiant Black review as well, I have instituted a 1-month delay in my comic book reviews to make it a little more incentivizing to go buy the books rather than just watching my videos for free and getting the complete plot. Of course, you still have the option of waiting to buy the books and watching my reviews and then getting them online. You'll only be 1 month behind, you're not that far behind the curve. And the work to catch these videos up starts with a brand new beginning. In September of 2020, Ultraman's Push to the West took comic book form, a 5-issue miniseries from Marvel that ended in January of 2021. By that point, Marvel was already impressed enough with the sales of the series to greenlight a second 5-issue miniseries that continues the story. We've seen Ultraman rise. Now it's time for him to be tested. Let's take a look at the Trials of Ultraman, issue number 1. The main cover features Ultraman facing off against a giant bat kaiju. I did my homework here and was able to figure out who this is. This is Pestar, a bat kaiju that eats oil and attacks several oil rigs. That makes the ship down here, the SS Arthur Adams, a clever way to sign the art, make a lot of sense. Adding a date to it is interesting though. October 2020. Think about the lead time on that. This book came out about 5 months later. The show's screen cap variant, sorry, I'm not as familiar with. For a moment, I thought this was the Godzilla suit kaiju. For those unaware, Tsuburaya once used the classic Godzilla suit as a kaiju for Ultraman, only adding a frill around the neck to distinguish it. No frill, it's not that one. I searched for Ultraman Fight Snowy Mountains, but only found a fight against an abominable snowman. Equally confused here. Remember that I am not an Ultraman fan, at least not yet. Ultraman fights a bunch of dragons, though Pestar is in this one as well. Okay, they felt bad for me, so they stopped trying to make me guess kaiju with this one. A nice seen from below shot of Ultraman attacking with a beam. Peach Momoko of Power Rangers Splash Morph cover fame contributes a very interesting cover here, seemingly inspired by the mandala art style of India. Very unique and visually interesting. Sometimes fighting kaiju is going to involve collateral damage, especially now that the USP isn't keeping it secret anymore. Ultraman fights a purple dragon thing near a shopping center, maybe? Okay, apparently they didn't feel bad for me about the kaiju for all that long, because now we have a cover that's just a kaiju, and I have no idea who this is. Looking things up again, my best guess would be Natsuno Maryu, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, a dragon kaiju from Ultraman Max. But if it is, the shot doesn't convey the longer neck very well. We start in California in 1970 as a man with luggage gets kicked flat on a beach. The dialogue implies that this is a veteran returning from the Vietnam War. That war did end in 1975, but maybe this guy just came back earlier or something. He pulls a knife, and the screams imply that he kills his attackers. A narration talks about how one confrontation with a lack of empathy can unlock the worst parts of us. In 1975, we see Pestar attacking an oil rig. Is this the first case of the kaiju on the cover being story relevant? Wasn't expecting that. The USP arrive at the rig, attacking the kaiju with their K-ray sidearms, which send the kaiju to another dimension. The battle continued over the years as the USP sent more and more and more kaiju to the other dimension. Then we cut to Matt's announcement of his Green Ranger identity. Kidding. It's a broadcast by the USP announcing that they can no longer use the K-rays, but not to fear. Female Professor X here is Aude Morheim, and she is the executive director of the USP, who are making their presence known for the first time. She explains about the kaiju and how they are attracted by human darkness.
Darkness imprisoning me, all that I see.
Since the K-rays don't work and they can't keep this a secret anymore, they're not going to keep this a secret anymore. How noble? They'll operate in the open, fighting the kaiju with help. Ugh, she's talking about the Ultraman thing, isn't she? Aren't any of you buying this? I mean, I've got the comic, so yes. The non-believing voice belonged to an oil rig worker watching the press conference during a lunch break. Another one says a relative's relative saw Ultraman in Tokyo, but this dude ain't buying it. There's an explosion, and they think the rig is self-destructing. However, it's not, as a hand emerges from the ocean. Of course, it's Ultraman grabbing a chain, for some reason, and punching Pestar down to the depths. Shin and the Ultra discuss the situation, apparently having had trouble finding kaiju before this one. Hey, look.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Shin says they need to wrap this up, but the Ultra explains that while Pestar is weakened, it has no specific weak point to attack with the spatium beam. It suggests focusing the creature's energies into something more broadly destructive. And Shin doesn't really care, saying just to do it, he'll follow along. And apparently this meant using Guile's sonic boom attack instead. And fight over. Shin is thrilled, but Ultra reins him in a bit. Pestar, hey, name drop, was one of the smaller giant kaiju. Kiki calls them, testing a new EM radio underwater, and it works fine. What's not working fine is the oil rig. The force of the explosion ruptured the drill pipe, and now there's an oil leak. The Ultra makes an unintended pun, calling using oil a crude way of harnessing energy, and then the two banter over the idea of puns for about half a page too long. The Ultra then says that their time together is over. It's being overly dramatic, saying that their color timer is flashing, meaning that their current session, transformed as Ultraman, is about to end. They fix the pipe and head for the surface, but not quite in time. They untransform, and Shin is now underwater with no source of air.
Tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air.
However, he just barely makes it to the surface. Back at base, Captain Muramusu lectures the two about not allowing fights to occur in nation-states that don't at least have treaties with the USP. The two of them really don't care about that, of course. Shin, cold and wet, and Kiki annoyed about the request as well as a minor injury she sustained operating the claw thingy to rescue Shin. But Muramusu insists, having conducted a tense negotiation at gunpoint to even get Shin back. This is very confusing to me. The oil rig workers all look English or European, possibly even American. Their speech is English. There are no brackets to indicate it's being translated. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that American soldiers would be a little tense and gun-happy over the whole situation. What's confusing me is the idea that the USP's first let's make a treaty phone call wouldn't be with the United States.
I'm the government, I'm the government, I'm the reason nothing works.
Shin wants to go shower and then sleep for several days, but no dice. We see Morheim standing at her desk away from her wheelchair. I'd say it's not clear just yet if the wheelchair is a ruse, or it's a case of her tiring easily or something, but clearly something is up as she talks to an unfeatured projection. She says letting Ultraman handle the Kaiju issue seems like a fine idea, but they call that a dangerous game. She thought they would appreciate that most out of the group, and they say they do, but there are understandable concerns. She perhaps feigns indignation at the doubts, saying she invited a wolf into the henhouse, but she fires back that she is the wolf. The figure stares, I guess it doesn't really have a face, and she apologizes to the sire for losing control. They say they'll discuss it later. Right now, she has company. Right back into the wheelchair as Shin goes in to meet with her. She rushed back from Paris to see him to discuss a request from him to be at the press conference and, weirdly backing up my joke about Matt's Green Ranger video, revealing his identity as Ultraman. She questions his desire to be a celebrity, but he says it's not that. It's exactly the same motivation as Matt. People are scared, but they'll be less scared if they know that Ultraman is one of them, garnering the USP some trust. You may have noticed that the USP are wearing orange now. I sure did. Look at that suit Shin is wearing. I want one. Morheim plot drops that Shin requested these bright, optimistic new uniforms, and she agreed at significant expense. She explains that she let him open the Kaiju vault because Ultraman would deal with it. But revealing himself as half of Ultraman would risk everything they want to accomplish.
Excuse me, what?
Well, here's why. Shin can only be Ultraman a few minutes at a time, and even then, only so many times before game over. So most of the time, he's just Shin Hayata, and easily killed when not transformed. Shin naively asks why someone would want to kill him when he just wants to help. Oh, my boy, you do have a lot to learn about the world, don't you?
Oh, my sweet summer child.
1 month later, we see Shin finding out how the world isn't so black and white when it comes to superheroes, through the best place for that kind of brutal awakening, YouTube! An SNN host rants about the USP not revealing the measures they use to keep the Kaiju secret. A Professor Nikaido theorizes that it's all just a conspiracy to raise taxes. Someone that I'm guessing is a politician denies ever knowing anything about them. And Crafty Man has 4 tips to get your bunker ready for the Kaiju apocalypse. A weird joke that doesn't seem to go anywhere. Shin starts to apparently ask about beans he couldn't find, and the clerk is tired of hearing it. Don't do it. Don't ask for beans. We don't have any more beans. I don't know when we'll have beans again. I never want to hear the word beans again in my life. That dude's gonna get fired for his attitude towards customers. Trust me, I work in retail. I can relate. But yeah, that doesn't work.
Your incompetence is staggering.
Shin and the Ultra, which I still say sounds like an excellent band name, have a great conversation. Shin convinced the Ultra of humanity's potential to deal with kaiju stuff, but now Shin is doubting and the Ultra tries to reassure him. Has anyone ever told you that you'd be great at writing horoscopes? You are the only human I have ever talked with, so no. But it is heartening to hear that you believe I would be able to find gainful employment on this planet, should I ever need to do so. Shin goes to his dad's house, I think, and finds the place a mess. Shin thought he had hired a maid, but they apparently had a disagreement and he fired her. He's more concerned with the giant monster attacks. Shin takes the chance to ask what his dad thinks of Ultraman. He sees Ultraman as just a stunt, a government trick to get what they want. Shin insists Ultraman is here to help. When his dad asks how he knows that, Shin says he just does. His dad points out that he has a history of poor judgment. I know because I'm Ultraman! His dad just stares at him, he looks away, and then his phone rings.
That was a great scene.
It's Kiki, and Shin says it's not a good time, but she says he'll want to hear this, especially since it's an emergency. Remember Dan Moriboshi, the pilot from 1966 that encountered the Ultra the first time? Remember how at the end of Rise of Ultraman number 5, he turned up at a store? Yeah, the USP has finally gotten wind of that. Shin says that's good news, but it's not exactly. You see, somehow he went from that convenience store to kidnapped by terrorists? Kaiju steps are back! The first is about the change in uniforms, and the second is about not using archived Q Division weapons, especially not Amelia's ghost-catching electric net gun. Between them is something weird that I do feel the need to go over, if quickly. There is an 8-page backup story that at first I thought was for a completely different property. For some reason the art style was giving me Magic the Gathering, which is getting or currently has a comic series, I'm not sure which. 1,000 worlds away.
Meanwhile, thousands of miles away.
A purple woman climbs to escape from some kind of silver ship as other ships fight against it. She seems to slip, but catches herself, climbs up, and deploys Link's Breath of the Wild paraglider. I think she flashes back. There's no effect or caption to suggest it. Just suddenly she and a younger boy are working in a field when the first suggestion that this is connected, a chicken kaiju, drops down, grabs the boy, and flies back to the silver ship. She lands on the ship and finds the boy encased in webs. She pulls him free, but suddenly a monster beams in, shocked that she showed up with last year's paraglider. They run, but the chicken shows up again, and she stands to fight. Suddenly, a sword drops from the sky. I guess she used sword vent when we weren't looking. One of the kaiju goes to grab it, but she rushes in and uses it to slice up some kaiju. What good? The chicken doesn't want to become tenders, so it flies away. We're told the two hid on the ship until dark, then back to the paraglider to go back home. The ship flies away, and they go back inside. The sword is apparently a lightsaber, or at least it has a retracting blade. She turns it over to look at the bottom of the handle. They could not know the Fate's grand plan. The force from which they had just fled would be the fall of Ultraman. On the bottom of the handle is a Q. Quickly, the backup story is really interesting, suggesting some far deeper lore, and once again referencing to Ultra Q. Also, the fall of Ultraman is capitalized in a way that suggests it just might be the title of a third miniseries. So now, okay, the main story, fantastic. This is a great launch back into this world. Plenty of details carry over from the last miniseries, but we get new characters, new mysteries, and new motivations. The theme of Shin's naivete versus a more skeptical, untrusting world of superheroes is great, especially when adding in the Ultra's Drax-like literality and earnest encouragement of Shin. A great page-turner from start to finish. The Trials of Ultraman, issue number 1, easily gets a 5 out of 5. Next time on Trials of Ultraman, when a team member is in danger, you pull out all the stops to save them. But even if Team Ultraman can pull off an unorthodox rescue, the results will raise some mind-bending questions and put our heroes in the crosshairs of a brand new threat.